Hey everybody, Mikael colville-andersen here, and welcome to a little, kind of an urbanism slam. A quick and dirty guide to what I call A2Bism. It's got to be the other way, right? Yeah. A2Bism. It really is just a matter of understanding the behavior of the citizens in our cities. They all have to move around from A to B to C, places to go, people to see, things to do. And understanding what goes on inside the human brain when we're trying to navigate through an urban landscape or a room or wherever we are is incredibly important. Understanding all of the choices that we make and why we make them. Human beings are pretty good at figuring out how they want to get from A to B. They are constantly navigating 24/7. You do it, I do it, we all do it all the time. Trying to figure out the best route through wherever we happen to be. If you're at a cafe and you realize you have to go to the bathroom or you want to go up to the bar and order a drink, you look around and you're already navigating the best route, the quickest route, the fastest A to B. Human beings are like rivers. We're always going to find the quickest route. If we're somehow restricted in that obvious A to B that we see in front of us and we have to, do a bit of a detour, then it's going to be a little bit of an irritation in our head. But we do it all the time. We've learned how to adapt to these minor defeats. Oh, I got to go around that table, or to get to my parked bike out there, I got to go around these bikes here. All the different scenarios in our daily lives in cities. In a way, it's really quite simple. A2Bism is simply understanding the transport psychology of Homo sapiens as they make decisions navigating from A to B. Now, in our cities, we all know far too well that other forces have been at play for a very long time, about a century or so, right? Most of the choices that are made about how we are supposed to navigate through our cities are made by people in distant offices, in the professions of traffic engineering and also, by extension, urban planning. So maybe you're thinking, yeah, okay, that's what they do. That's their job, and let them do it. But if you look at the way that we've been planning our cities for really more than a century, it has been incredibly car-centric. All of the space given over to automobiles. I made another video about the arrogance of space, as I call it, recently, if you want to have a look at that. But also all of the control mechanisms that are put into place based on the fact that cars are the dominant transport form in almost every city on the planet. And really, the professions of traffic engineering and urban planning are based on control. How do we control the population in a city or a town and get them to do what we want to do based on the system that we have constructed that serves primarily automobiles? So a lot of the barriers you see in front of you in cities, a lot of the control mechanisms that are in play are simply a knockdown effect from the massive mentality of how to move cars through a city. This massive system that has been put into place in our cities to control automobiles dominates completely and utterly the systems that have been created to control the people moving about a city, be it on foot, on a bicycle, getting on and off buses, going in and out of train stations, you name it. We shall construct a system, a control system, and people will use it. And if you see people not using it, deviating from it, then they don't understand the system. The system, there's nothing wrong with that. They are the deviants, and do what you want with them, find them, put up higher barriers, control them even more. The system is your friend. I was thinking about the similarities of this control system with, for example, livestock farming. You have these huge flocks of animals, and so many control mechanisms have been put into place to keep them in their place. Not just the classic corral, but also the cages in the stables, the infrastructure to lead them to the milking machines, and then out again. And then, of course, at the end of the day, the story never really ends well, leading them to the slaughterhouse. And I thought, ooh, is that a bit of a heavy metaphor for traffic engineering and urban planning? No, I think it works fine. I'm good with that. The fundamental flaw in this desire to control humans in the urban landscape is that humans prefer to be free range, right? We have our own free will, and we are happy to use it whenever we can. We were free range humans in cities for millennia until the invention of the automobile turned everything on its head and became the dominant force in all aspects of urbanism. In a city 1,000 years ago, there was infrastructure, there was structure on the urban landscape, but the people who were designing it and constructing it were responding to the immediate needs of the people living in that city now. It was a human-to-human process. Now, it's mathematical models, people sitting in distant offices, studying the street outside your home and going, yeah, we're just going to make them do that. And we're learning how ineffective it is day by day. And we're moving slowly towards urban change. A2Bism is simply what humans want. This is what we are hardwired to do when faced with any landscape in front of us. Now there is a lot of talk about mobility in our cities, how to put the bicycles back or making more pedestrian-friendly cities better for accessibility, pedestrian streets in a city center, improving the access to and from bus stops and train stations. It's really a cool period of time in this age of urbanism where we're starting to think differently about our cities for the first time in a century. But we are still trying to figure out how to get this monkey off of our back, this all-dominant engineering and planning mentality, man. This last century primate, we just got to get rid of it. A few years ago, I made a graphic which continues to do the rounds on the internet. I have seen printed out versions in planning offices all over the world through my work, which is really cool. It is simply a traffic guide for mobility in modern cities. 4 simple lines. If you want to prioritize cyclists, pedestrians, public transport users, you simply give them the fastest A to B, wherever they are in a city. Make it the absolute default. At the same time, you make driving the most difficult choice. More expensive, more time-consuming, a real pain in the ass, to be blunt. All of the campaigns in the world, ride a bike, it's good for you, save a polar bear on your bike today, go for a walk more often in your neighborhood, they mean absolutely nothing unless we are doing that 4th line. And more cities are coming on board and doing just that, making driving more difficult. The great thing about the 3 transport forms on the left is that we are intermodal. We can easily switch between one of these 3 transport forms. If my bike tire is flat in my backyard one morning, oh man, what a pain. I throw it into a bike shop and I continue on my way using buses, walking, metro, train, wherever I need to go here in my city in Copenhagen. A lot of cities don't have all of those options. I'm well aware of that, but that's what I do. Motorists, we know, in transport psychology, are the last user group to change their behavior. And once you start thinking like this, you start to get completely different answers than the ones that we've just been regurgitating for the past 70, 80 years in our cities. The city of Copenhagen has excelled at thinking along these lines. The bicycle is simply the fastest way from A to B, really anywhere in the city of Copenhagen. And connected with public transport, buses, trains, metro, it extends throughout the capital region. A lot of people look at Denmark and assume, oh, such an environmentally friendly country. So Nordic, one of the top recycling countries in the world. They buy more organic food than any other nation in the world. Man, that's why they ride bikes. They're all just so sanctimonious and I'm saving the planet on my bicycle today. But that is not at all the case. The city of Copenhagen, every 2 years since around 1996, have published a bicycle report. And they ask the people here in Copenhagen the same list of questions. The answers never change. When asked, what is your main reason for riding a bicycle through Copenhagen? The answer is simply, it's quick. It's the fastest way from A to B. That's it. Then there's a smaller percentage who say, it's good for my personal health. I get that 30 minutes a day that the doctors keep telling about. I read about it all the time. I feel good about myself, riding along on my bike, listening to my music or whatever, with my basket and my laptop in it, going to work, going to education, wherever. Then you have a very small group, about 6%, who say, I ride because it's inexpensive. That busts a lot of myths in other countries around the world. People only ride bikes because they're poor. Then you have the 1%. The 1% of Copenhageners that say, I ride a bike for environmental reasons. I am saving that polar bear on my bicycle today. I am making a conscious decision to do something good for the planet in my daily transport habits. 1%. If you want people to ride bikes in your city, make it the fastest way from A to B. Protected infrastructure is absolutely essential as well. We could also talk about pedestrianism, how to make it more convenient and safe, of course, to walk around our city. One of the things you don't hear about a lot is the traffic signals in Copenhagen. And sometimes when I'm standing in other cities, I'm like going, when is this going to change? You could read entire books while waiting for lights to change. Or this completely stupid system where you have to push a button to activate some kind of system that lets you cross the street. This is not prioritizing pedestrians at all. This is the car-centric matrix dominating our lives as ever. But if you come to Copenhagen and you're cycling or walking around, or even, I guess, a motorist as well, the same thing applies to them, waiting at lights. They are very quick changes. You have enough time to get across the street. You're not stressed, if you're walking with a little kid or if you're an elderly person. You never feel like you're waiting forever at a light. None of this is rocket science. It is completely attainable for any city in the world. There you have it right there. That's all we need. A2Bism is the way forward for thinking about how to move people through a city. Ask new questions, get fantastic new answers that will actually improve urban life. And I'm going to plug the book, Copenhagenize, The Definitive Guide to Global Bicycle Urbanism, chapter about A2Bism in there, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff I hope you find relevant and interesting. Thanks for watching.